You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of May 16th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. Flash, those audio chatterboxes they call the Professional Left Podcast are taking to the airwaves tonight in a retrospective that'll curl your permanent wave. From the swanky studios of downtown Springfield, Illinois, to your very own listening devices comes 900 episodes in 60 minutes. A piping hot sample platter of American political whoop-de-doo, spanning 15 years of ballot box bedlam and legacy media failures that put the most corrupt man in American history in the White House twice. To mark this 900th anniversary episode of their award-ready podcast, today the Professional Left Kids will be sampling every episode from the past 15 years that ends in a 00. A little something from the 100th, the 200th, the 300th, etc. Flashback to 2010, where the fake Tea Party stormed the Capitol Hill, while President Obama's healthcare hullabaloo had Republicans reaching for the smelling salts. The midterms dealt the Democrats a shellacking that made the 29 crash look like a slight dip. Also, 2011 saw wedding bells for our intrepid podcasters. But did they let their nuptials interrupt their podcasting? No, they did not. The audio oracles take you through Mitt Romney, taking a beating worse than Joe Lewis's punching bag. Obama's second inauguration had champagne corks popping in blue states, while red states nursed their bourbons neat. But hold the presses. A corrupt, racist New York real estate crook with a coiffure that defied gravity and a former First Lady squared off in a campaign brawl that would make the Thrilla in Manila look like a Saturday school picnic. Donald Trump's November surprise left the pollsters with egg on their faces and their crystal balls in the repair shop. Join them as the blue wave of 2018 washed over the House of Representatives like high tide at Coney Island. 2020 impeachment drama's hotter than a Broadway opening night, followed by an election showdown during a pandemic panic. Biden and Trump traded verbal haymakers while mail-in ballots flew faster than female to the troops overseas. Hello, boys. How are the troops doing overseas? Flash, January 6, 2021. The Capitol steps saw more action than the Normandy beaches, with protesters storming the rotunda. The podcasters recall congressional hearings that made the Kefauver Crime Committee look like a bridge party. The audio oracles highlight Supreme Court confirmations with more drama than a soap opera, and a 2024 campaign rematch that had Trump returning to Pennsylvania Avenue after Biden stepped aside and Harris stepped up. That's a 15-year political roundup as jam-packed with excitement as a three-ring circus. 900 episodes in the books, 900 more to go. Way to go, kids! But first, continuing on from our last episode, when does the open, public, voracious corruption of Donald Trump become too much? Well, Blue Gal, who is a decent human being and thinks and acts like one, believes the signs are there that some sort of limit is being approached.
On the other hand, Driftglass has a fiction writer's habit of trying to think like his characters, even the loathsome ones, and figure out how they would realistically react to various obstacles. And based on the record of 20 years of blogging, he tends to be right depressingly often. So look, here are the facts. Fox senior legal analyst Andy McCarthy actually bashed Trump and his family on the air for violating the U.S. Constitution by taking lavish gifts and large sums of money from foreign sources, which we know that's what he's doing. Speaking on his podcast with co-host Rich Lowry, McCarthy said this, quote, "But the alarming thing here is you have all these foreign, even if they weren't foreign, it would be very disturbing to have somebody who was president leveraging the power of the presidency to get people to buy stuff from him, which is obviously making him much richer. Trump's net worth, according to Forbes this week, is $5,400,000,000 between, what they did to stand up this Trump media company, the Trump Media and Technology Group that owns Truth Social, and what they've done with this cryptocurrency stuff. Trump's net worth has doubled in the last year or so, and that's when Tish James had him on the ropes, and it looked for a second like he was going to lose everything, right?" And from Politico, quote, "A number of Republican lawmakers are souring on President Donald Trump's plans to accept a luxury Boeing 747 aircraft as a gift from Qatar, a rare series of rebukes of the president by his allies in Congress. Senate Majority Leader John Thune on Tuesday became the most prominent Republican to express discomfort with the deal, telling reporters there are lots of issues associated with that offer, which I think need to be further talked about. Wow, bold words, John Thune.
Fiery.
Yeah. Firebrands within the GOP caucus have gone even further in their rebukes, saying the deal could feed questions of impropriety and legitimize a regime they argue supports Islamist militant groups around the world. I do think the jet probably sends the wrong signal to people, and I don't like the look or the appearance of it, so I would hope he rejects it, said Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, Tuesday on Fox News. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, noted Qatar's financial support for the militant group Hamas, a foe of Israel, and voiced concern about the security risks the plane could present. Qatar was also a backer of Hezbollah in the past, though the relationship soured after the Syrian civil war. I also think that the plane poses significant espionage and surveillance problems, so we'll see how this issue plays out, Cruz said Tuesday on CNBC. That's all these bold words, but really, going on TV and saying something that might make Donald Trump mad.
Right.
While the plane is free, modifying it to make it usable by a president of the United States would come with a hefty price tag of hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. According to lawmakers and former Air Force officials, the plane would need to be rebuilt to make sure it does not have any bugs hidden in its hardware, and so that the military can install needed secure communications and security technologies on the plane. We said this last week.
Yeah.
Unquote. Yeah, we said all of that last two days ago.
And I'll say this. If Benjamin Netanyahu wants to swing Trump's support back to him, away from Hamas, then he'd better give him 2 goddamn jets. Because that's all that Trump responds to is, who's giving me the biggest bribe today?
Right. And I love gold. And I love feeling like a king.
And I will stand next to people who are horrible and just lavish praise on them. They're the greatest people, the best. They smell great. They're awesome people.
Because they live in palaces. And I want to live in a palace. Right.
And they give me gold shit. They give me lots of gold-plated shit. And that's what I want. And this is from Media Matters. Quote, while defending Trump accepting a luxury jet from Qatar, Newsmax host Rob Finnerty says, I would definitely criticize Joe Biden if he cut exactly the same deal. Of course he would, unquote. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, Republican of course, told Fox News that he trusts Qatar, quote, like I trust a rest stop bathroom, unquote. So there's clearly cracks showing in the uniform Republican firewall against everything and all things Trump. Yeah. So let's spin this out a little bit.
Okay.
Let's assume that Democrats, which I think is likely, actually will take back the House in 2026.
Yep. I think that's a safe bet. Yeah.
Yeah. It only has to be by 1. You know, this is not a 60-vote majority thing. It's just 1 vote. You get to be Hakeem Jeffries.
Depending on how again, I always say this, but depending on how the economy turns out in the midterms, it could be 15 votes. Yeah. Switching, or it could be 45. We don't know.
Right. But the point being, to take the House back, all they need is majority plus 1. Right. Because that's how the House works. There are no filibusters in the House. Correct. There's none of that nonsense. And then they could do hearings and they could do all the things. And my question to you, when we were just talking about this earlier, was, so what? So what? Checks and balances are over. We just don't do them anymore, clearly. Congress doesn't pass anything anymore, really. And Trump rules by royal decree. He decides what he wants to pay for, what he doesn't want to pay for. He turns Musk loose to gut agencies that have already been funded and money that's already been paid out. So, what?
FBI doesn't need to have a budget anymore.
No, just keep showing up to Congress.
And neither does DHS.
Right, yeah, my dog ate it. You know.
Yeah, right.
And as long as Trump has a giant megaphone and can scream at people and just manifest laws like royal decrees out of his ass whenever he wants anything done, and there's effectively no checks and balances in Congress, and the courts barely stop him, if at all, then what the hell difference does it make that John Thune is, Susan Collinsing all of a sudden? And the question I had was, okay, what what does all of this bubbling discontent just below the surface accomplish? And you and I are kind of different minds about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it accomplishes nothing. It doesn't matter what a few Republicans get mad about. They're allowed to be mad on TV as long as they don't go after anything Trump cares about. It'll just wash out, and he'll make friends with them again, and they'll suck up to him some other way. And the ultimate tool to stop him from having 3.5 more years of destroying this country would be impeachment.
Yeah.
So, is impeachment a viable tool if we take back the House and there's enough discontented senators to make it, possible? Maybe. Or would it be the greatest public relations gift that Democrats could possibly give to a flailing Donald Trump?
Yeah. I see your side of it.
Yep.
I know that's why Nancy Pelosi did not impeach him for emoluments early in 2017. And I think there were comments made that Trump was surprised that he hadn't been impeached before the Zelensky call. Yeah. And it was emoluments. It
was bribery.
I mean, he thought, if they're going to try to take me on, it's going to be because I take money from, I rent out entire floors of my hotel to Saudis and they never come and stay there.
Right. He takes bribes. Everyone knows he takes bribes.
Yeah. So, he sold his hotel. He's gone for so much more money now with crypto.
Right.
And his sons are over in the Middle East doing golf course deals. And, there's just this humongous pot of money in the Arab world and nowhere to spend it. And they might as well. And from their perspective, I totally understand why, these incredibly corrupt American leaders and their families, Uday and Qusay, right?
Yeah, Uday, yeah.
Uday and Qusay, it absolutely, the transactional nature of it is exactly what the Arab world, that's how they see things exactly the same way as Trump does.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll give you a plane.
Yeah.
And you're going to give us
whatever.
Weapons.
Right.
And AI technology.
Right.
Which we'll sell to China.
You'll go lightly on Syria and we'll let you build a tower there.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. You can have a hotel and a casino.
And half of this is just redressing stuff that Biden did and was, a communist threat when Biden did it, or Obama did it, and it was a communist threat.
The Iran deal was selling out America, and Tom Cotton. How is Tom Cotton going to paint this?
Gold. He'll paint it gold.
He'll paint it gold. He'll buy some trim from Home Depot and spray paint it gold. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so I get that, but I think history also teaches us that there are turning events and turning points in history that we can't predict. And I would just like to outline a couple of those that may happen in the next 4 years or 3.5 years that would be monkey wrenches in everything, in all of the pessimism that you've served up.
I would prefer the term realism.
I know you would. Mm-hmm. Okay, so much depends on the state of the economy.
I would agree.
And you did say that whatever happens, he's going to blame the deep state and Emmanuel Goldstein and he'll find some person to blame Biden. He was always blaming Biden.
He'll find a clerk and throw them out off the balcony of the White House and say the deep state.
Anything goes wrong with Social Security or Medicare, he'll find a clerk and throw them off the roof. Right.
It's somebody else. Right.
Or fire Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
If war breaks out somewhere, he'll just fire Marco.
Right.
That's an easy call.
Uh-huh.
But here's some monkey wrenches that could happen.
Okay.
Rupert Murdoch dies. That's a big one. Because the Murdoch brothers, his sons, are at each other's necks.
What would that do?
Well, it would disrupt the Fox machine.
Right.
Even more than disruptive than that would be if Fox in any way loses the Smartmatic case. It has to pay another $750 million. out the door.
Or more. Right.
And those two things also destabilize the advertising revenue
For Fox.
for Fox.
Right. Well, they get most of their money from, I think I understand, carriage fees.
From what?
The carriage fees on cable.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where they make their money. So they don't really care about advertising. They do, but they really
so
don't.
all we need is enough of a
Drop in viewership.
Yeah, a drop in viewership, exactly.
Well, I think
cable company, or the death of cable. Again, that's the other thing that may, with all these mergers in multimedia stuff, and people just decide, look, there's so many people dropping cable and cutting the cord. We make more money from streaming services anyway. Right. At some point, Comcast might just say, look, you got to buy Comcast as a streaming service. It's cheaper for us than these boxes, and that an improvement in streaming technology in particular. And all of a sudden, these cable boxes become obsolete.
Yep.
There's no more carriage fees. That would absolutely devastate Fox. So
let me just ask you about the Fox thing that you just brought up. Two different scenarios where Fox is mortally wounded.
It's disrupted.
It's disrupted.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you a woodworking question.
Mm-hmm.
If Home Depot tomorrow were boarded up. No more Home Depot. Home Depot gone. Mm-hmm. Will the people who shop at Home Depot stop doing woodworking, or will they go to Lowe's and Harbor Freight?
Well, we have that problem with Jo-Ann Fabrics.
Right.
Nobody's stopping knitting.
Right.
There's a lot of coping mechanisms going on in a lot of communities because there is no local yarn store, for instance, in Springfield.
That's right.
We have a Michael's and we have a Hobby Lobby, which, sane women won't cross the threshold of Hobby Lobby. Yeah. And Michael's is no substitute for what Jo-Ann Fabrics had in terms of actual material and craft.
So here's my question. So if Fox News is Home Depot and it just gets shut down or disrupted for some reason, won't those viewers in search of the lies that make their tummy feel good just migrate over to Newsmax? Yeah.
I think that's the other monkey wrench, though, is, the die-off of that generation.
Well, yeah. No, I'm not talking about the loss of through demography. Yeah. I'm talking about if you're correct about some major disruption.
You're saying that it could be easily replaced by a Newsmax or an OAN and whatever.
I would say it must be because these are addicts.
Right. They're going to go looking for that.
That's right.
They're going to go looking for that.
That's right.
Good question. And then I wonder, what is the alternative to impeachment for Democrats?
Right.
And I don't want to go all David Gregory and go, well, what are the Democrats going to do about it? Because
right. I understand. No,
that's
you're right.
David, that is David Gregory's. This is the Democrats' responsibility to come up with a plan for Trump. But if Democrats take a page out of the Republican playbook and hold a summer of hearings with surprise witnesses in 2027, that gets attention. And it could, I mean, in the middle of the summer, you just have one hearing after the other.
Yeah.
With women accusing Trump of rape and, counting the dollars that he's stealing from the taxpayer.
Sure.
Over and over again. And you have former Treasury secretaries come in or bankers come in or anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. Elizabeth Warren and Chris Murphy will put together a list of people who can testify as to Trump's wealth and where he's stolen it from.
Okay, so I got you there.
Yeah.
We have Democrats holding a TV drama series, Watergate Summer.
Yeah. And I want to be clear about something else. And you did agree with me on this, and my colleague Carolee also agrees with me on this. Mm-hmm. There isn't going to be a budget or a big beautiful bill passed out of this Congress.
I really think you're right about that.
Period.
I do think, yeah. Just
there's going to be continuing resolutions through the midterms.
Because why would
Mike Johnson is not a strong enough leader to pull his caucus together on things that literally mean life or death to certain constituencies.
Yeah. $800 billion just in Medicaid cuts. And not just cuts to direct services, but cuts to hospitals, cuts to nursing homes.
Something that Tengrain has pointed out repeatedly on his blog, which is these Medicaid cuts. Medicaid dollars don't go to people.
No.
They go to hospitals and nursing homes.
Exactly. And they prop up.
Those folks have lobbyists.
Yes, they do. And it's not as if our local hospital or local care clinic is propped up 100% by Medicaid.
No.
It's propped up, let's say 40%.
Nursing homes are, though.
Yeah. Well, let's just say 40%.
Yeah.
What happens when you take 40% of the funding out of any institution?
It's more like 62% of nursing homes patients.
Oh, no. You missed my point.
Sorry.
My point being that there are no buildings that are just 100% Medicaid and they go away. It's much broader than that.
Right.
The damage is much broader than that. There's all kinds of healthcare facilities.
And if hospitals have to shut down, it doesn't just affect Medicaid patients.
Right.
That affects a whole community in terms of employment. This is why Barack Obama didn't want to do single payer.
Right.
After the 2008 crash, that was going to unemploy 1 million insurance company employees.
Right. Which, I'm okay
Our economy couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm. But if you shut down one Medicaid-only facility, that's one set of jobs. If you damage 20 facilities that are partially funded by Medicaid, that's an entire community that's getting knocked on its ass.
That's in district after district after district. And it's already hard enough. This is why voters have gone to the polls to expand Obamacare.
All to fund tax cuts for Elon Musk.
Right. Yes.
And that is an easy thing to understand, which is why I think they're just going to increase the debt limit to a billion gajillion dollars.
Right.
Why not?
After the midterms. Right. And they'll do the tax cuts.
Right. But getting back to the hearings, I think you're absolutely right. I think that is an incredibly easy argument to make. It is why my grandmother was a Gray Panther.
Yeah.
And there were senior activists who were out there.
Trump's in huge trouble with people over 60 right now.
Yeah.
Huge. And they vote.
Oh, yes, they do. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter that they vote. He's already won. He doesn't give a shit.
He has already won. The question is, he loses the House.
Doesn't care.
And he loses 4 Senate seats.
Doesn't care. Why would he? Again.
No, he doesn't care. This is why I've had to calm people down on Blue Sky who are like, I don't even know if we're going to have an election, even have midterms. It's like, first of all, there's way too much money involved in having those midterms.
Right.
In terms of TV networks, in terms of local community, even newspapers. Yes, newspapers make money off of elections.
Yeah, they do.
And elections are locally run. They're going to have a House election. The fact is, Trump doesn't give a shit about elections that don't have his name on them, just like everything else.
Exactly. But he doesn't give a shit about Democrats owning the House. That would be great PR.
I don't think he does at this point. I think he thinks that the Supreme Court has made him completely invincible.
Well, and
he can do whatever he wants.
A House full of Democrats screaming for his head is the best way of unifying.
And that's an opportunity for him to run for a third term.
To unify his party. To unify the base.
Unify the party behind him.
They're coming for me again the third time. It's not going to happen. My base will. And then he goes out and does rallies in between golf.
And then he's, But between golf games. Yeah, right.
But the summer hearings, now, you'll remember we already had a summer of hearings.
Oh, I know we did. We did.
It didn't
on January 6th.
And
we had surprise witnesses. Yes.
And what happened?
Well, we know what happened. Trump got reelected because the memory hole is so big.
So I'm haunted, as many people are haunted by their impression that the West Wing was actually how Washington should be.
I hate the West Wing.
I know. But
it's because of that. It's because it gives people a false sense of security. Yeah.
People have I'm drawing a metaphor here, drawing a comparison. As some people had their brains poisoned by the West Wing, people also had their brains poisoned by the memory of Watergate summer.
Yes.
And a series of hearings held over the summer would drive a president from office out of sheer shame because Republicans would eventually break down in tears. Surprise witnesses would show up. John Dean would say this. Oh my God! There's microphones in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
And I'm saying those days are as dead as the dinosaurs. They're over. We held all the hearings you would ever need to conclude Donald Trump is a corrupt, traitorous monster.
Right.
And the base didn't give a shit about it at all. It barely showed up on Fox News. It was not talked about except by his persecution of that good man in the White House. So I don't think that makes a dime's worth of the difference. I think it makes a difference to us.
It all depends. There's a couple things it depends on. The state of the economy. I am not praying for a recession at all.
Right.
But
doesn't matter. It's the weather. It doesn't matter what you pray for.
There are plenty of vets out there. First of all, there are plenty of vets out there who are Democrat.
Oh yeah.
Iraq and Afghanistan vets who know that the Republicans destroyed their lives and or at least sent them into a war that was a lie.
Right.
And they won't forgive Republicans for that. There are vets who say in town halls, I'm not a Democrat, but I don't like what Trump's doing to vets. Mm-hmm. Now, whether they will vote Democrat in a House race to send a message to Washington, I don't know.
Who knows?
We need blondes with big tits, Driftglass. That's what we need. Stripper poles, reading Tom Hartman columns. You know,
I just tell you, you're speaking directly to an 18-year-old Driftglass looking at his first election. Going, if there had been blondes with big tits and stripper poles reading, I don't care, Herman Hesse, I don't give a shit. I would have paid very close attention to that. That would have been occupied a lot of my time and most of my brain. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. But I think,
we need to make it sexy. We need to have the right kind of, and also we need to go hard and negative against Trump.
Yes, we do.
This is not about the American people.
And target and be very careful about who we're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars have been pissed away trying to reach Republican voters.
Yeah, no.
Write them off. They're fucking brain dead zombies. You will never convince them of a fucking thing. Right. Go after the center. Go after the people who can be shocked and embarrassed and mortified.
And let them know how much this is costing them.
And you have to overcome their both sides do it threshold.
Yeah,
and
right. Because both sides don't take planes from foreign governments and love gold so much they're willing to sell out NICU babies.
Right.
We're going to have ads with NICU babies.
Run against Joe Manchin.
Run against the Joe Manchin contingent of the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Run against them. Absolutely, yeah.
And you have a NICU baby, and the voiceover says, name of Republican congressman, thinks this Medicaid patient needs a job requirement.
Yeah, excellent.
And you have a beautiful old woman lying in a nursing home. Maybe she's knitting, but she's frail.
Maybe her hair is being brushed.
Maybe her hair is being brushed by a young
immigrant,
Hispanic woman, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And Congressman Joe Republican thinks this Medicaid patient should have a job requirement.
Should be working at a factory.
At a factory.
Turning those tiny
earn
spoons.
Their care.
That's right.
That's not the country we are, period.
And it's just... Go all in with that. Go all the way in with that. Don't, no, as we say.
Have
on
a working woman on an ad saying, if my mother who has Alzheimer's, thank God she has good care through Medicaid. If she has to come home and live with me, I'll lose my house. My family will lose our house because I have to quit my job.
What smart people did, what smart people did with finding the right spokespeople for Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Do the same thing with Medicaid.
Yep.
And it has the virtue of being honest and honorable and true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And aim a dagger right at their fucking hearts, man. Right at them.
White men do that too. Yeah. I think having white men
my mom,
in commercials saying, my mom, thank God she's getting good care at this nursing home. Thank God for Medicaid, takes care of her. If she has to move back home with my family, I don't have the resources to take care of her. It costs $8,000 a month to take care of her. And she's kept clean and she's living. She has a, what is the word I'm looking for? She lives with dignity. She lives with dignity in a nursing home. I see her every day. I visit her every evening. She doesn't always remember who I am, but she's clean and well fed and she's living with dignity. Thank God for Medicaid. But my Republican congressman thinks she needs a work requirement.
I wouldn't say work
requirement. Earn
her
care.
I wouldn't say work requirement.
Well, job. That's what they're calling it.
I know. Fuck what they're calling it.
They want her to go to have a job, right?
She needs to get up or off her ass and get a job.
Right. To earn the care that she's paid into her taxes all her life. Yeah. I mean, the ads write themselves.
Yes, they do.
Except we're very good at this, Drift.
I know.
Anyway, all right. So that's where we are. We have some disagreements about this.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I think after this little back and forth that is not scripted, it's an issue I think we should talk about. I feel a little less pessimistic.
You mean realistic?
Realistic. a little, but I hope you feel a little more realistic about what.
I'm not delusional about Trump's ability to hold on to power.
I'll take that. I'll take that as a win all day long. Drift Glass wins. That's the important thing.
All right, so that's where we are. Drift Glass wins.
Uh-huh.
Now let's look at how we got here. How do we get to 900 episodes of this podcast?
Excellent question, Blue Gal.
Yeah. Actually, before we even started numbering these episodes, back in the Roman numeral days,
yes,
it was episode 60, on February 10th, 2011, we announced our engagement, Drift Glass.
It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the heart of romance, it's The Professional Left with Drift Glass and Blue Gal.
This is a special podcast. Special announcement for this week's show is that Blue Gal and I are getting hitched.
Yes, we are.
Blue Gal has consented to make me an honest man. She has ruined my virtue, and she must make me an honest man.
I must say, Drift Glass, I'm, first of all, thrilled and honored to be your wife. That's going to be so wonderful. I love you so much, and we're going to have a great life together. It was hard. Yeah, the what did you call it? The reenactment of your proposal?
Yes. Well, we had to do dramatic reenactment.
We had to do a dramatic reenactment for the children.
We had to take that show on the road just a little bit.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Yes, we did. And when you asked me in that official manner, on your knee before the children,
it's true. It's true. I did.
I did not
with the ring.
The whole schmear, and it's a gorgeous ring, by the way. I will post a picture of the ring. It is from Etsy, and it's a blue drift glass, actual drift glass stone it's drift glass. It's not a stone, it's glass in recycled sterling silver, and it's handmade, and it's beautiful. When he got down on his knee and asked me, I couldn't hear the question because the children were screaming so loud, "Say yes!" So
I had coached them before.
You certainly had. You had your wingman and two wedding planners there who had a financial interest in making sure that this wedding takes place.
And for those of you who remember this, yes, we did in fact record a podcast on our wedding day in August of 2011. That was episode 88. And it ended like this.
And how are those internet kitties doing this week, Blue Gal?
Well, given our upcoming nuptials, Drift Glass, they're searching the bathroom trash cans trying to find out if you're pregnant.
Let's think about living.
Now, for episode 100 on November 3rd of 2011, the 2012 presidential election race heated up, with one Republican suggesting the GOP needed to take a fresh look at Newt Gingrich.
That young up-and-comer, Newt Gingrich.
The intellectual center of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, that was the week that our friend Charlie Pierce came out with a column about David Brooks. I have never before that or since then left a comment at Charlie Pierce's blog. And I don't know if he does comments anymore. I think he moved him over to Facebook.
Over to Facebook.
But at that time, he had a comment. And I said, "Stealing from Drift Glass is no way to go through life, son." And so did a lot of other people.
Yeah. God bless y'all.
God bless y'all. But he was kind about it. Anyway, Charlie Pierce came out with a column about David Brooks.
And so when I want to say, oh, no more David Brooks this week, and then I see Charlie Pierce getting lauded over and over again. Oh, this is so brave. This is so awesome. Finally, someone's tearing down David Brooks. And I think, wait a minute.
This is the greatest takedown of David Brooks ever. I have never seen anything like this.
Crappy graphic.
This is awesome. This is great. Oh my God! I feel like having a cigarette after this.
Yes,
it's so good.
Right.
And you know what? It was good. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I've written 300 vampire novels, and Charlie Pierce has decided, hey, you know what would be cool to write about? Vampires.
Yeah.
And he's written a couple, and that's great. And suddenly, oh my God, someone has finally gotten around to writing about vampires.
Yeah.
And it's not, and that's a trivial topic to take on, but the significance of it, and the reason I was saying that this is how sometimes I feel petty and put upon and underappreciated, and I'm not. And those are small, mean feelings, and I acknowledge them as such, and I try to put them aside and say, you know what, that's just being bitchy. Because as I started to express that online through my blog, just a little bit of, oh, by the way, look what Charlie Pierce dressed up as for Halloween. He dressed up as me. And trying to just acknowledge that he's a good writer, and I'm delighted that the critique of media at that level has finally leaked out of the blogosphere into some other place, other than Matt Taibbi occasionally and me. And Marie Burns, we want to acknowledge her too. She does reality checks, and she's very good and has been banging on the same rock right beside me for a very long time as well. But somebody came back to me with a comment saying, you know what, forget about it. I never understood why you cared about what this idiot in the New York Times say, but you made me understand, and now I understand, and now I see why it's so important to go after him, because he is selling an insidious poison. That last bit is my interpretation of it. He is selling the narcotic that's keeping the media asleep, that's keeping any sort of analysis of what's really going wrong in this country from taking place. He is absolutely frantic to keep people from noticing Occupy Wall Street. He does it by playing this ponderous, very soft-spoken, very pastel-colored, aw shucks guys, centrist. But he's not. He's a complete conservative, plutocratic tool who has been wrong about every fucking thing his entire career. And yet, and this is what gets us to both our Rachel Maddow moment and this moment of pleasure when you and I get feedback from listeners or readers who say, no, maybe you don't hear it, but I now understand why this is important and I never understood before, and so good job. That means everything. That's just a wonderful feeling. And it's, getting that feedback almost in real time when we do these podcasts is so rewarding.
That brings us to episode 200, which is October 3rd, 2013, entitled The Republican Shutdown. And if you have no memory of that time, you will not believe what I'm about to say. A government shutdown over Republicans objecting to spending under Barack Obama. When you hear this, just think about the reckless Doge chainsaw attack on government employees. And be aware that at the time of this episode, Donald Trump was nowhere on the political horizon. He was just that birther asshole from New York. But all the corrupt, mendacious, racist building blocks that would form the MAGA movement and the reign of Donald Trump over the GOP were all on full display for anyone who'd cared to look.
I want to wrap up this podcast by talking about public service.
So soon?
Yeah. Public service, which seems to be dead because we don't have Republicans anymore. We have millionaires.
Yeah.
And they're making a lot of money on corruption, indirect corruption and direct corruption. And there is no sense of serving anyone but your gerrymandered constituency that doesn't want you to give things to black people. And I do want to give big kudos this week to Joan Walsh for saying what we've been saying for 200 episodes, which is this is about the Confederacy, this is about race, this is about a vision of government where government's evil and government's wrong because government gives free stuff to black people and therefore steals from us. Right. And it's our country, and we want our country back.
Mooching black people. That's right. That's right. That's the bumper sticker for the GOP.
Yep.
I would like to just modify that sentiment a little bit. Once upon a time, when I worked closely with various parts of government, I got to see up close and personal people like Ted Kennedy's
staff.
Yeah.
And they were really dedicated public servants, but they're staff. They're not elected. And I got to see up close and personal people who were public servants in jobs that they'd been hired to do, appointed to do, contracted to do, who worked crazy long hours, cared deeply about what they believed in, whether it was childhood hunger or immunization or education or helping ex-offenders or helping drug addicts. There is a body of people at the staff level, at the non-governmental organization level, the not-for-profit level, who are amazingly dedicated people. We see them at our church all the time. But at the elected level, yeah. The idea that public service, to run for office and serve honorably to help your government, is such a dead letter now.
Yeah. And Congressman Gingrey, 2 weeks ago, last week, I'm only making $178,000 here. I'm stuck here, making 100. There's your public servant right there.
Yeah, just marking time until he can go collect a check at the Heritage Foundation.
Right.
And because that's why you go. That's why if you're a conservative, that's why you go into government. You go into trash as much as the place as you can get your hands on. Kick as many poor people in the throat as you possibly can. Pour as much sand in the engine as possible, and go collect a paycheck on K Street. Mm-hmm. And that's your career arc right there. That's what you dream about. And
you'll be replaced. That's the sad part, is you'll be replaced by another gerbil in the wheel who will have just as safe a seat and do exactly what you did.
Who's dumber and more vicious than you because the primary in your district just got that much harder to say anything nice about anything. And that's
and I guess what I want to leave because I think both of us are really pissed and really depressed about this government shutdown and the way things are going. I want to leave our listeners on our 200th episode with a message of thanks, first of all, and also with a message of hope that we continue to be servants, that all of us work hard to serve our fellow man and take some emotional distance from the evil that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Bible bitch found today, 1 John 3, if anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need but has no pity, how can the love of God be in that man or woman? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but in actions and in truth. And that's the message that I want to leave people with, which is it's about love. It's about working. And that's what I really liked about those people on Facebook is they kept a very clear head about it. They heard something on the media that was clearly wrong and clearly designed to obfuscate what's really going on. There are some greedy people who hate their fellow man, who are racist, and I'm just going to say it, the race issue is key to this.
And who want to erase the existence of Barack Obama.
Of a black president.
They want him gone from the history books, period.
Yep.
And the way to do that is to make him fail.
And the way to counter that, I think, is take some emotional distance and work. And whether you go on Facebook to counter that or whether and I'm not saying just be a keyboard warrior here, but give of yourself, volunteer, fight the good fight, make a difference today.
Yeah.
And then, you know how I feel. I feel God is working his purpose out. So that's me, but I don't want to get all preachy here because I'm not that way.
Yeah. And I'm just...
all the atheists are getting into heaven before I am. I always say that.
I'm much more about, look.
You want to cut people's throats, Driftglass.
No. I want to live in a society that I admire and respect. Mm-hmm. And the way to do that is to find something that's broken and try to fix it.
Yep.
And keep trying until you drop. And
I want to thank you, Driftglass.
I want to thank you, Blue,
for being such a good husband and father to our kids. And, our 200th episode, it's a nice time to tell you how much I love you.
Oh, I love you too, baby.
Our episode 300 was a retrospective like this one. But episode 299, we're cheating a little bit, which aired on August 27th, 2015, was entitled All Trump All the Time.
Yeah.
And noted that the cable news had an addiction to Trump ratings. The news event that week was Republican candidate Trump kicking Univision reporter Jorge Ramos out of a press conference. And Jorge had insisted on an answer from Trump about immigration. So Trump threw him out.
A candidate, just a candidate.
He was just a candidate. So we discussed that here.
No, Donald Trump, apparently liberals are to blame for Donald Trump because liberals are to blame for everything. Because of the PC jihad that liberals have been waging all these years has made it impossible to talk honestly about anything. And Donald Trump is just a reaction to the overwhelming PC thought police power that we liberals exercise over everyone and everything. How that power slipped out of our hands during the last 40 years, I don't know. I don't know how George Bush got elected, but of course he didn't. That's the thing. That never happened. That happened before 2009, so that never happened. And Eric Erickson says pretty much the same thing. It's Donald Trump exists not because the Republican base are really, really horrible people who believe terribly
bad ideas,
terribly ignorant, angry, stupid, fascistic things, and they've been trained to do that like seals. Rather, Donald Trump is a reaction to the fact that the Republican Party leadership has capitulated completely to the Kenyan usurper, especially over the matter of Planned Parenthood, which just murders babies for money. That's the real reason. And so that brings us to Trump Tuesday.
Trump Tuesday and Trump Wednesday, and where Donald Trump kicked a reporter out of a press conference.
Yep.
And you watched that, and then I watched it. And what was your reaction to that event?
Let me give you my after-action report. I agree with Glenn Greenwald.
I do, too.
I agree with Matt Taibbi. I agree with Glenn Greenwald. Absolutely. You heard it here first, good people. When he's right, he's right. And it wasn't a hard call to make. I thought Jorge Ramos behaved like a dick, but he behaved like a dick like Sam Donaldson used to.
Yeah,
yell. Shout at the guy in front because he won't take your fucking question.
Yep.
I thought it wasn't a question. It was a statement of activism and principle with a question mark at the end of it. But so what? It's no worse than other reporters do. I thought the complete lack of response from every other reporter in the room practically was shameful. This isn't the president of the United States. It's not a prime minister. It's just a goddamn candidate on the goddamn campaign trail. I do think, and this is where Trump kept his word. He said, I will not give up the microphone.
Yeah.
I think it was shameful and weak, loser-ish, because, the important things are losers and winners. I won't give up the microphone to some, I might have someone else do my fighting for me. You might remember he said that about Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm. You know what? He would never give up the microphone. That's weak. Yes, that's weak.
And his supporters loved him for it. And they invited Mr. Ramos back in, and they sat and Trump.
Well, let's not forget what happened in between time.
Yes.
While Ramos was out in the hallway, one of Trump's supporters told Ramos to get out of my country.
That's right. Get out of my country.
And
the brown shirts, honey. They're fucking.
Well, that's what someone on Twitter said. Crystal Knock comes to the campaign trail. Not that you want to do all of this Nazi referencing stuff, but it is interesting that the brown shirt has not been named, and no one has said who this person is who said this to him. He's just a nameless soldier in the fight for freedom for white people, right?
That's right.
And never mind that Ramos is an American citizen.
Yeah.
This is the thing that divides truth from fiction. When you push back with people, and I had this exchange on Facebook. I don't want to take too much time away from it, but from what we're talking about. But this woman, I posted something about God said love your neighbors, and that includes Mexico. And she said, I love Mexicans when they're in Mexico. They need to stay on their side and be in Mexico. And I said, well, first of all, your last name is French, which means there's a strong possibility that your people came over on a boat as refugees. And, where did your people come from? I mean, I know I'm first-generation American on my dad's side. He was born in England. He came over on a boat as an infant. Where did your people come from? We're all immigrants. Most of us, 99.999% of us are immigrants.
And now you're down the rabbit hole arguing with someone who is not going to listen to you.
Oh, she did. Well, and the interesting reaction was they don't pay taxes.
Right. Yeah, they do.
That was her answer. Was they don't pay taxes?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they don't buy food. They
don't buy. In Mississippi, food is taxed.
Right.
There's sales tax on milk and bread. So
are they solar powered? Are they nuclear powered? Because
they buy gasoline.
They sure do.
And I said that, and then it was she said something else, and I said, well, what about the people who are American citizens and are third or fourth generation American citizens, maybe longer than you, and just have Mexican, Hispanic, Latino last names? And that's when she disappeared from the conversation.
Well,
because it's not about immigration at all. It's about those people and my tribe, and I want my tribe to be in charge, and I want white supremacy. And that's what this is about.
And that brings us to the shortest tenure of any White House staffer ever. Anthony Scaramucci, who's become a verb.
Yeah.
Came on board as the White House communications director and immediately gave an interview with Ryan Lizza, who some of you know has since had his own publicity issues, of The New Yorker, and in which he said, quote, what I want to do is I want to fucking kill all the leakers, and I want to get the president's agenda on track so we can succeed for the American people, unquote. Also, he also said, quote, I'm not Steve Bannon. I'm not trying to suck my own cock, unquote.
Classy.
Classy. Nothing but class there. Just the best people, Blue Gal. Here we are talking about it in episode 400, which was August 3rd, 2017. The Professional Left podcast, which has now lasted nearly 400 times longer than the tenure of former White House communications director Anthony Scaramucci.
Yay.
Yay.
Hey, Driftglass.
Yeah.
I hate to cast aspersions.
Yeah, what?
Our podcast lasted longer than Anthony Scaramucci's marriage, too.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's sad. Oh, that's just sad.
Last week, I was just unbelievably angry at the fact that we had the Scaramucci divorce and the Reince Priebus leaving the White House. And this was before Scaramucci. This was days before Scaramucci got fired.
Yes.
The fact that Scaramucci survived the weekend shows you the failure of this White House to have any control over anything. And I also raised my eyebrows quite a bit when Scaramucci was fired, and that proved that Kelly was in charge. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. If you can't fire someone who did an interview like that the first minute you're in office as chief of staff, then you would... That is such a low bar.
Yeah, that was the consensus. That was the easiest test to pass.
Yeah.
And you know who failed that test? Donald Trump failed that test.
Donald Trump failed that test.
Because he's a failure. He's a failure as a person, as a man, as a president.
He's not a failure at ginning up the racism
he's
in
good
America.
Oh, he's really good at that.
And
there's so much winning. There's so much white winning out there right now. It's unmeasurable. And
he really is trying to make America into West Virginia. I mean, rural, white, inbred, uneducated, angry, making liberals mad. That's politics. Go Hannity. That's it. You know, he wants them to be European descended, but so long ago that you have no memory whatsoever in your brain of you being an immigrant or your people being an immigrant. You're Merkins, and that's it.
Real Merkin.
So, and no sense of why America is an idea rather than a place. No appreciation for that.
Blood and soil conservatism. Good old-fashioned fascist motherland blood and soil conservatism.
Yeah. And now here's a Trump and the Republicans story that has completely fallen down the memory hole. From episode 500, aired June 28th, 2019. To pretend like, oh my God, who knew that this was going to be this bad? Or that Donald Trump could hit a new low this week.
Everybody.
By talking about John McCain not being on greener pastures.
Right, literally dancing on John McCain's grave. Saying that...
in front of the Faith and Freedom Coalition.
Why wouldn't he? They're all scumbags together. They're all brothers of that ilk under the skin. They all have dark hearts. They all have sold their souls for various horrible reasons. They're all fascists. They're all racist. They're all scum. And so why wouldn't he share that with them? And that's the part where you're with a bunch of horrible people and one of them goes way over the line. And there's that moment where, holy shit, are we now this bad? And they're all like, well, I guess we are. And it's funny. But he said we needed 60 votes. We had 51. And sometimes we had a hard time with a couple. Fortunately, they're gone now. They've gone on to greener pastures, or perhaps far less green, but they're gone. Very, very happy they're gone. This is dancing on John McCain's grave. And, his daughter, I'm sure, will talk about, whose whole life, I forget who said this, is now a noun, a verb, my dad.
That was Charlie Pierce.
Charlie Pierce.
Yeah.
Way to go, Charlie.
Yep.
That's all she does now. And her horrible husband runs a horrible website funded by horrible people who are an insult to every single thing John McCain ever stood for.
Right. And I am sorry that Meghan McCain has a seat on a television show.
She should be in mourning.
She should be mourning her dad for 2 years, as long as she needs. The display that they are putting on her, I think, is abuse. And I'm sorry for that. But she's right about this week, boy. The statement that he made, I couldn't believe that he could go lower in my estimation than he already was, but he did.
And she'll vote for him.
And she'll vote Republican. She'll vote for his party.
Sure,
Yep.
Of course she will. Of course she will. Because that's who these people are. And that's who they've always been. And that's what we've been saying for, frankly, far too long. And now we have entered the Biden era. The U.S. government is giving away COVID vaccines like the Qatari government is giving away jet planes to certain people. Episode 600 was a letter show, but in episode 599, again, a little bit of cheating, May 21st, 2021, I cover the history of the Lincoln Day Dinner fundraiser for the Sangamon County Republican Party.
Dive right in, Drift Class.
Hey, Blue Gal, how you doing? Anything going on in your town today? Anything going on this week? Anything?
Is it today or is it tomorrow?
It was yesterday.
My God.
And the tape is up at Facebook, and it's being moderated by people who say, I will delete any negative comments about this, so please don't even bother.
What happened is there's the Lincoln dinner for the local county Republican Party here in Springfield, Illinois.
The 117th annual Lincoln Day dinner held 3 miles away from where Abraham Lincoln is, in fact, buried. So there's no more Lincoln place, really, in the country than Sangamon County.
Everything here is Lincoln.
Everything Lincoln here.
Yeah. If it's not Adlai Stevenson, it's Lincoln. But, and this is a fundraiser. Let's be clear. The reason that they hold this dinner is to charge people $150 for one share. And more. It's like all other political fundraisers. If you want to meet and greet, if you want to do X, Y, and Z of having a table and your name in the program and your organization in the program, then you have to pay more. So they want to get a person in there to speak who is going to put $150 butts in the seats. Right. And so, of course, they have the only people that the Sangamon County Republican Party knows guaranteed will get butts in the seats are Fox News personalities.
That's all. That's all they know.
That's the whole world. And you're not going to get Donald Trump.
No.
So forget it.
No, he's in a different, you could get him for enough money, I guess. But you're not going to get him because they don't have that kind of money to hire his people.
But they definitely want to fill the auditorium, and they want $150 a piece. So it's going to be, a few years ago it was Jeanine Pirro.
Well, let's save that for a second.
All right.
Because the reveal is so fascinating to me. Because of the justification. First of all, let's just jump to it. The person they hired to come and tell the wingnuts
in the year of our Lord 2021.
2021 is Candace goddamn Owens.
Candace Owens.
Batshit conspiracy Pez dispenser, anti-vax freak, Hitler sympathizer, Candace.
COVID-19 denier.
Yeah. Candace goddamn Owens. They hired her, and you knew it was not going to go well. I mean, it's going to go well because I'm sure they filled it up, and I'm sure there are more than enough assholes in this town who'll pay a shitload of money to hear her lie to them. But the headline in our local paper, and there were two different articles on the front page about this yesterday or the day before.
On page one.
On page one above
of our
the fold.
local paper. Covering
the headline
Candace
read,
Owens coming to Springfield.
Yes. And the headline read, Sangamon County GOP leaders defend speaker. Not Sangamon County GOP leaders welcome speaker, are excited to have this speaker. They went immediately into the crouch that, this is a fundraiser, and, the kids seem to like her, and she brings people in. But that's the part about the reveal is the part that I found most pathetic and most indicative of the fact that the Republican Party is actually rotten all the way down to the grassroots. These are people who live and work in this town. These are local Republican elected officials raising money for mostly down ticket stuff. Circuit clerks and, state representatives to the state house, things like that. And of all the people in the universe they could invite to speak to them and guarantee a sold out house of people who would not just pay money, but would pay the additional money for pictures and additional money for sponsorship and of course, there's always the hallway fundraiser where, you get the guy or the woman out in the hall that has a big checkbook. And you say, by the way, we could really use another couple of grand for thus and so, which happens at, every fundraiser. But it was Candace Owens, and the reason, the rationalization they put in the newspaper was, we're a big tent party. We want all voices to be represented. There were two things that really, really jumped out. Was the fact that the party chairman would not discuss whether or not there were any objections, because that's an internal matter.
Yeah.
And secondly, every year they have an honoree here. Mm-hmm. And the honoree this year is the former chairman, the past chairwoman of this group, who died February 2nd of complications from COVID-19.
Right.
So they invited a COVID-19 denier to dance on her grave to raise money for the party that she helped create, which is just grotesquely perfect in the way the Republicans think, the lizard brain of the Republican Party. But they said over and over again, that I'm quoting now, GOP leaders say that their Big Ten is large enough to include controversial commentator. And, she's a young, energetic African-American woman who has lots of energy, double the word energy, and appeals to young people. And it's a big tent party. And you know what? It's a big tent party. And some people were troubled by it, but they're not going to quit the party. I'm sure, I disagree with lots of people. Yeah, but there's a difference between disagreeing with someone over, I don't know, marginal tax rates and Hitler denial. That's a very big thing. The defense of Crouch was, we are a very open party. We want to hear from all kinds of voices. So let's take a look at that theory, shall we? Last year it was Jason Chaffetz, who's currently a Fox News troll and has taken up permanent residence in Donald Trump's underwear drawer. The year before that, it was Oliver North, noted perjurist and unindicted Iran-Contra traitor, who went on and on about the assault from the left, and the Disarm America movement is the best funded, most sophisticated assault on American liberties in our history. Blah, 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 blah. Everyone should have a bazooka because the liberals are commies. The year before that, it was Jeanine Pirro. The year before that, it was Corey Lewandowski. Are we noticing a pattern yet?
Yes.
This is their big tent. It's nothing but year after year after year of Fox News assholes coming to lie to these mopes and meatheads and racists about what the scary liberals are up to. Now, the year before that, it was Laura Ingraham. Oh, my goodness. How could I forget good old Laura Ingraham? And the year before that, it was Corey Lewandowski again.
There's a real lack of interest in issues and more a headliner of name recognition and we'll own the libs. Have a 30-minute speech over dinner of owning the libs. That's it.
Well, going back all the way to 2012, the guest was Ted Nugent, who arrived in town telling local reporters that Barack Obama was an America-hating punk and has a long history of, threatening the life of Barack Obama and threatening the life of Hillary Clinton and just being an absolute dreg scumbag. But he was introduced in the newspaper as a rock and roll guy, a hunter, and a gun enthusiast.
Yeah, gun enthusiast and outdoorsman. Don't forget outdoorsman. Yeah.
So they know what they're doing, and they know what their people want to hear, and they're willing to spend a little money to raise a lot of money by giving them someone like Candace Owens to stand up on stage.
Even though she's Hitler made Germany great again.
She's insane. She's fucking insane. Yeah. And you go over to the local Facebook page. Oh, God, I love her so much. Oh, my God. She sticks it to the libs. She really does. Oh, my. And I can hear these people in the pews of my church. I can hear these people at the supermarket. And that's why Rodney Davis wins here, despite the fact that Rodney Davis should not be a congressman from anywhere. And that's why Darren LaHood is probably going to win back his House seat. Because this is Trump country.
In the fall of 2022, with the help of a number of generous Patreon supporters, thank you guys, The Professional Left podcast went to 2 episodes a week. We did No Fair Remembering stuff and Science Fiction University. And now we just kind of do 2 episodes a week. We also want to mention that during these years, we had help from a wonderful angel nerd named Tammy, who helped us with tech and moral support.
Yeah.
Episode 700 aired March 9th, 2023, only 2 years ago. We covered Tucker Carlson's attempt to air edited tape of January 6th to reframe it as a peaceful protest. The swift reaction from Republicans against Tucker Carlson, who was later fired from Fox, shows just how hard Trump has had to push his Orwellian efforts to rewrite the history of the J6 riot. Let's just do a Dominion lawsuit filing, quote, round robin.
Okay, all right. You want to go first?
There's so much to say about this, but let's just do that.
After you.
Okay, Rupert Murdoch. The real danger is what he might do as president. Apparently not sleeping and bouncing off walls. Don't know about Melania, but kids know help.
And Carlson, we are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait.
Okay, I'm going to ask you not to do Tucker Carlson's voice again.
Okay, I'm sorry. I scared the cats, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Tucker Carlson. About Trump. I hate him passionately.
Tucker Carlson about Trump. He's a demonic force.
Tucker Carlson. We're all pretending we've got a lot to show for it, the Trump administration, because admitting what a disaster it's been is too tough to digest. And that's when I ask, for whom?
For whom? Mm-hmm.
Too tough to digest, but come on. There really isn't an upside to Trump.
Tucker Carlson complaining that, quote, our news divisor, I think they mean division, people are promoting it, as in legitimizing criticism of the insurrection and calling it an insurrection.
Irena Briganti is a Fox executive in the communications division. She, Briganti, is coordinating this, Ingram alleged.
Carlson responded to this without question. She hates us. Irena hates primetime. Trust me, this is not speculation.
More quotes on the subject of Tucker Carlson's bullshit 4-minute The Truth About January 6th disaster. This was a shit show that they did not expect would get the pushback it did.
No.
First, Tucker Carlson said, deadly insurrection, everything about that phrase is a lie. Very little about Jan 6 was organized or violent. Surveillance video from inside the Capitol shows mostly peaceful chaos. And he was only able to find 4 minutes of video out of 44,000 hours of video.
And Republican Representative Tom Tillis had lots to say, but the short version was, quote, it's bullshit, unquote.
Yep. Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, called it offensive and misleading conclusions, including a disturbing accusation that Officer Brian Sicknick's death had nothing to do with the riot. Quote, I want to associate myself entirely with the opinion of the chief of the Capitol Police about what happened on January 6th. It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks. That took his comms team half a day.
It did.
Because you have to say it in such a way. But back the blue was the angle he went with.
Republican Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota says, I think that breaking through glass windows and doors to get into the United States Capitol against the borders of a police is a crime. I think particularly when you come into the chambers, when you start opening the members' desks, when you start standing up in their balcony, to somehow put that in the same category as, permitted peaceful protest is just a lie. I think it doesn't do any good for the narrative. Now, that's the part that I like. Okay.
The narrative.
The narrative. There's a story we have to tell. And being completely full of shit when the tape's right in front of you isn't helping our narrative. You're not helping the party here, Tucker.
Mitt Romney, he's a senator from Utah now.
Yeah, really.
Quote, it's really sad to see Tucker Carlson go off the rails like that.
Yeah. Just happened
joining a range of shock jocks that are disappointing America and feeding falsehoods. The American people saw what happened on January 6th. See, that's the problem.
Yeah. Witnesses.
The American people saw what happened on January 6th. They've seen the people that got injured. They saw the damage to the building. You can't hide the truth by selectively picking a few minutes out of tapes and saying this is what went on. It's so absurd. It's nonsense. It's a very dangerous thing to do, to suggest that attacking the Capitol of the United States is in any way acceptable, and it's anything other than a serious crime against democracy and against our country. Trying to normalize that behavior is dangerous and disgusting, unquote.
Republican Senator Mike Rounds from South Dakota, quote, I was there on January 6th. I saw what happened. I saw the aftermath. There was violence on January 6th. I think the footage that's available should be made available to all networks, and everybody should be able to see for themselves just what kind of chaos we had on that day.
And Lindsey Graham even. Wow. I think the January 6th committee had a partisan view of things, and I'd like to know more about what happened that day and the day before, but I'm not interested in whitewashing the COVID lab theory, and I'm not interested in whitewashing January 6th.
Yeah.
Who asked you?
We'd like to remind our listeners that every Republican currently sitting in Congress has changed their tune, and that the official position of the Republican Party is that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and that all 1,400 insurrectionists who were pardoned by Donald Trump on day one of his second administration are now considered officially patriots and martyrs. Episode 800 on April 30th, 2024 started off with a no fair remembering stuff element and ended with a foretaste of the future. 800 episodes of being not safe for work. This is once again recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we take up the story of a Republican politician who tried to advance their political career using a dog. It's the Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
That's what we have, and that's what we owe. It isn't very much, but Pat and I have the satisfaction that every dime that we've got is honestly ours. I should say this, that Pat doesn't have a mink coat, but she does have a respectable Republican cloth coat. And I always tell her that she'd look good in anything. One other thing I probably should tell you, because if I don't, they'll probably be saying this about me too. We did get something, a gift, after the election. A man down in Texas heard Pat in the radio mention the fact that our two youngsters would like to have a dog. And believe it or not, the day before we left on this campaign trip, we got a message from the Union Station in Baltimore saying they had a package for us. We went down to get it. You know what it was? It was a little Cocker Spaniel dog in a crate that he'd sent all the way from Texas. Black and white, spotted. And our little girl, Tricia, the 6-year-old, named it Checkers. And you know, the kids, like all kids, love the dog. And I just want to say this right now, that regardless of what they say about it, we're going to keep him.
Yes, that was then Vice President Richard Nixon, 72 years ago, in his famous Checkers speech, trying to salvage his political career by pressuring Eisenhower to keep him on as vice president for a second term by laying it on thick. Nixon lays out everything he owed and everything he had, right down to Pat Nixon's respectable Republican cloth coat. And then came Checkers the dog, which his daughter Tricia loves. And damn it, he didn't say damn it, but no. He wasn't going to give back that dog no matter how hard they tried to take it away from him. They tried, no matter what they say bad things about me anyway.
We're keeping the dog.
We're keeping that dog.
Mm-hmm.
72 years later, we find another Republican trying to advance their career using a dog.
Uh-huh.
But Kristi Noem shot her dog in the head in a gravel pit.
Yeah. Checkers takes one in the melon is the strategy that Nixon never deployed. He thought,
I'm not laughing about that poor dog. No. I swear.
No, Nixon thought the way to get people to like me, because I'm an inherently unlikable person, is to mention I have a wife and a daughter and an adorable little dog that I will.
And his wife and daughters did humanize him, because people thought, well, if Pat likes him, he must not be all bad.
And he's got a little dog named Checkers, and he'll defend that dog to the bitter end. No, he won't. He was not going to drag it to a gravel pit and shoot it in the face. But that's what Kristi Noem has done, isn't it, Blue Gal?
I just don't. I just don't understand the mentality. But it was to show her as a gun-toting dog killer, is what it was.
And then came the backpedaling that saying that she probably someone slipped that into
Kimberly
her book.
Guilfoyle said someone snuck it into the book.
She surmises. She deduced using geometric logic.
Her great logic, her Mar-a-Lago hair extensions logic.
Yeah, but no,
And,
she put it.
Over the years, if you look at Governor Kristi Noem and how she has genuinely, over the course of, the past 2 years, done dental work. She went out of state for dental work, and her hair has changed, and she's turning into that Mar-a-Lago look that Trump likes.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she thought that being tough with a gun
Shooting
was
a dog.
exactly what was needed
Mm-hmm.
to toughen up, that she's not just a pretty face, she's got guts.
I'll go out
And
there.
everyone from Laurel Loomer to the Professional podcast is saying, what?
What? You did that, and then you thought you'd brag about it.
Cat turd. It was a bridge too far for cat turd.
Well,
so.
and now she has said she did it for the children, Blue Gal. She did it for the kids.
She did it for the kids.
You've been listening to the Professional Left's Political Parade of the Ages, brought to you by Jerkins Lotion, the lotion of choice for hand jobbers of tyrants, both foreign and domestic.
Thank you for 900 episodes and 7.5 million downloads.
Yes.
Man, oh man, what a journey.
Yeah. And we're still speaking to granted, it's on camera only. We don't even see each other physically anymore. But
no, we've been married now for
800 years.
14 years.
Yeah.
And
Coming
we're
up
very
15.
happy. We've launched 3 kids out the door.
Yeah. They keep coming back, though.
Middle child graduated from college last Saturday.
I know.
And youngest child will graduate next summer from college.
It's been an adventure.
I never have to speak to them again.
That's right. Because they have no interest in their mom. Or
no, they
their
call
mom.
every day practically, but that's all right. I love them.
And if you all have anything like this, like an archival memory or notes, or sometimes it really is helpful to go back and retrace how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to forget just how fast a rocket ride it has been for the Republican Party. And this is, of course, we started podcasting 15 years ago. We were blogging for 5 years longer than that.
Right.
And we're politically active for 20 years longer, 30 years
Absolutely.
longer than that. So when we say that we saw this coming, we warned people, we could see the trajectory, and people who tell you that they couldn't or didn't, those people shouldn't really be trusted, frankly. Because if you spent your entire career calling people like us, treasonous baby killers, and kooks and crackpots and alarmists, right up until the moment Donald Trump took over your party. And then suddenly you come to Jesus, but you come to Jesus over our broken bodies saying, well, liberals probably were responsible for this. I saw this coming in 2017. Maybe those people are not as honorable or as honest as you would like them to be. Maybe the honorable, honest thing to do would be, there were a bunch of people out there who did warn us, and we didn't want to hear from them because they told us things we didn't want to hear. Right. So if you have your own kind of archival material or history, or just go through our old podcasts, go through our old blogs, there's an awful lot of material there for reflection and revisiting. And I'm doing a thing over at my blog where I'm going back 20 years every now and then and just resurfacing old stuff that I wrote and old articles and old issues from the past. And you'd be amazed how clear it was what direction the GOP was heading in and how fast they were moving to get there.
I pulled all these clips that you heard today.
Yeah.
Just today. I just pulled them today. I didn't listen to, hundreds of episodes and pick out the ones that were that showed us in that good light of, oh, look how prescient they were. It wasn't hard to pull out stuff that goes, oh my God, look where we wound up.
Well, you pulled 9 clips total, I think.
Yeah.
Which means there's 891 for the rest of you to go
If you
exploring.
want to go through that trauma, some of it's funny.
Yeah, some of it's funny. Some of it's, and we did have ups and downs. We've had fake advertisers galore, which people have either hated or loved. We get a lot of feedback from people, and tastes are different, and we get a lot of criticism, and sometimes it's warranted, and mostly it's just, you don't want to hear from us because, we're just middle-aged white folks living in the Midwest, and our opinions aren't yours, and that's fine too. But after 900 episodes of this, 15 years of this, I think we have established ourselves as the professional left.
Thank you, Driftglass.
You're welcome, Blue Gal.
Each week, we post to our Patreon page. First of all, let's say, for 900 episodes, the Internet Kitties.
The Internet Kitties. The best.
What a backup.
The
what
best.
A backup for us every week.
Couldn't have done it without them.
Couldn't have done it without them. Each week we post to our Patreon page and website on Internet Kitties sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitties, plural, are Panther, Sparkles, and Pumpkin. These 3 kitties actually live with 4 other kitties. Because you can't have too many kitties. According to my late mother, you couldn't have too many. They live with 4 other kitties, but in this particular photo, 3 cats is a bed full. And of course, Panther, Sparkles, and Pumpkin eat freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your cats might just get out of your bed for 5 minutes to demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Panther, Sparkles, and Pumpkin. Go ahead, try to guess which is which. It's not too difficult. At our Patreon page or website, and you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, subject line Internet Kitty. Thank you very much. Write to us, proleftpodcast@gmail.com. You can write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We do love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air, unless you say otherwise.
And after all this time, do I really need to remind you of our gourmet coffee guidelines? Well, apparently I do. So if you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, go ahead and buy one for us. And we'll toast you with our espresso-based beverage that you sent our way. This is not charity. This is the professional left, and this is our job. If you can spare $5 a month or more, please spare $5 a month or more at patreon.com/proleftpod. Another thing you can do, and you should all know this by now, is if you love this podcast, if you think what we say is valid and interesting and of value to other people, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you so very much for doing that.
So, Driftglass, what are the Internet Kitties saying this week?
Lugal, the Internet Kitties say,
never give up, never surrender.
Let's think about living.
Think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.